And Scotty Chin.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, Ken Pomeroy is going to join us here in just a moment. Fired up to chat with him. As always, get to his website, kenpom.com, and check out all the stuff that is available there for you. Great insight, great analysis, and he's the best.
And if you're wondering why BYU runs 13 games in a row, I think it was 12 in a row after the Utah win, and fell from 9 to 11. Is that right?
Yeah.
Maybe Ken can shed a little bit of light on that, because I think that a lot of people wondered, wait. I know it wasn't this dominant win over Utah. It was still a win, and they still grabbed it in the final minute. Even though Utah kept it within 2 to 5 points, I still felt like BYU had a decent control of that game, but Utah they really showed up.
Yeah.
But BYU falls from number 9 to number 11, and it's people like Ken Pomeroy that understand it, and hopefully he can shed a little bit of light on that.
Well, even Ken Pom has BYU ranked 13th. Now, granted, when I say Ken Pomeroy runs a site that is all statistically driven. There's no opinion involved.
No emotions.
It's all computer rankings.
No emotions, no opinion.
Yeah.
It's just the facts. I mean, it's the numbers that show the ranking.
Well, joining us now, it is Ken Pomeroy from kenpom.com, one of our favorite people on the planet. And this is your fun time of year, man. You're coming up on it. Do you feel like this is the time of year where your computers actually have a good vibe on these teams right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're at the point where, halfway into the season, a little bit of conference play mixed in. There's certainly plenty of data now. And, I mean, it's, not everything's determined, and there still will be surprises. But, I think the ratings are a pretty good representation of who's good right now in college basketball.
So, Ken, we talked to a lot of different listeners out there that struggle to understand. I struggle to understand at times, but BYU goes on a 12-game win streak. They beat Utah. They now are on 13, beating TCU. They were at 9. They fell to 11. Help people understand how you have a two-spot tumble after a win, and then help people understand how important that is or isn't.
Well, it's probably not that important. I think people obsess about those kind of small changes way too much. First of all, BYU fans should take, just watching the team, just take comfort in the fact that the team is obviously very good. They're certainly capable of making a deep run in the tournament. I don't know if they're a national title contender quite on that level, but certainly a team that can get to the Final Four, and that should make everybody very excited. So if you're wringing your hands over, dropping a couple of spots, whether it's in the AP poll or my ratings or anybody's ratings, you need to step back and maybe reassess how you get enjoyment out of following your team. Why that happens, at least in my ratings, is that obviously you're not playing these games in a vacuum. First of all, there's other teams around you, and if they have better performances than you do, you can still get jumped even in a situation where you win. So there's that, but also my system takes into account scoring margin as well. And so, some of these games, certainly the Utah game was closer than you might have expected for a top 10 team. And so when that happens, you're going to get dinged a little bit in the ratings.
You do have your player of the year standings right now. A.J. Dybantsa at number 3, Boozer from Duke, number 1, Josh Jefferson at Iowa State, number 2. But you can't ask a lot more for A.J. Dybantsa on how he started the season.
You cannot ask for anything more. To me, he's really one of the most fascinating situations in the country, just in terms of the fact that BYU relies on him, I guess trusts him so much. He just uses such a large share of the offense that it really is pretty impressive for a freshman. And I expect that trend is only going to get more impressive as we head to the tournament. We're going to see, Kevin Young just really put the ball in A.J. Dybantsa's hands in every, critical situation. And right now, I mean, they do that right now, I guess, but I think we're going to see Dybantsa get the ball in his hands even more frequently than he is right now. And so I'm really, fascinated to see how things play out. I mean, the MO of BYU so far this year has been I mean, I think, at least when I watched them, certainly the TCU game, great example of this, where, it wasn't like you ever. I don't know that I ever really thought that BYU was going to lose the game, and yet it was a close game most of the way. But you always kind of know that when you have A.J. Dybantsa, go to him down the stretch in the final 5 minutes, put the ball in his hands, and he's going to create something. He's either going to, get to the foul line or create points on his own. And to me, he's Cam Boozer's, he's going to be the national player of the year. But obviously Cam Boozer has more help around him, I think, than A.J. Dybantsa does. And to me, that makes A.J. Dybantsa a much more interesting case the rest of the season.
If you haven't got to KenPom.com, get out to KenPom.com, and you can better understand the numbers and what Ken Pomeroy does. He's a genius in his field. He's one of my favorite guests every single year. Get him a couple of times. And you need to go out and just check out his stuff, KenPom.com. So, Ken, Scotty's taught me how to spend some time on the site and kind of read and understand. But kind of give me your thoughts, because I know that there are numbers that identify everything. Right now, through whatever it is, 17 games. Right now, through 17 games for BYU, do their numbers identify them as a good tournament team? Somebody that might be good in tournament play, whether it's numbers or it's a personnel. Do you feel like it's built for a potential big NCAA run?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is that there really isn't like a singular formula for NCAA tournament success. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of college basketball, is that you can different styles can still be successful. The one thing that was noteworthy about BYU is that on my site I color code various aspects of a team, red and green, depending on if they're good or bad. And like BYU has green in just about everything, which is actually really unusual. Like even the best teams, like they're not going to be great at everything. You don't need to be great at everything to be successful. But BYU is at least good in everything and great in some things. And I think that speaks to the consistency we've seen from them this season. Obviously with just the one loss, but it just seems like, as I mentioned, with the TCU game, like you just watch them, and even when the game's close for a while, when they're playing a weaker opponent, Utah game as well, you just don't really have a lot of doubt that they're going to pull out that game in the end.
I was talking to by the way, in regards to that, I was talking to a coach once, and he was referencing a team that wasn't very good, and he goes, yeah, their KenPom numbers have more red on it than a slasher movie. And I was like, okay.
Who said that? Just a coach?
Yeah, just a coach was talking about some other team. But, I was around the Utah State coaches, and they're like, hey, a new KenPom number. Everybody's talking about average 2-point attempt distance. When did you add this, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so I added this, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, average 2-point attempt distance, pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
It's the average distance of your 2-point attempts. I try to keep these stats simple that I put on the site. And it is what it is. But obviously you want to be, theoretically, you want to have shorter 2-point attempts. That should lead to higher 2-point percentage. And so that's the idea. It really is. It's one of these things that, in one sense, you want to have a better 2-point attempt distance. Like that's just something you should probably strive for. But there are teams that don't have great 2-point attempt distance and still, they're very good from the mid-range or whatever. Purdue is a great example of this. Their 2-point attempt distance is pretty bad, but the 2-point percentage is actually good, and their offense is really good, best in the country. So it's a kind of a half of a skill stat and half of a style stat. It's one of these things that's really sticky for coaches. So, if a coach is great at 2-point attempt distance one year, they're probably going to be great at it the next year. It really speaks to the style of offense they try to run.
Ken, in that line of conversation, how do you calculate your luck category?
I love this, by the way.
Yeah, this is a fan favorite.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I've always thought about. Every year I think about killing, but People talk about it a lot. So the luck stat is it's basically just looking at a team's performance in close games, and so teams that are winning a lot of close games are deemed to be lucky to some degree. And it's not to say, we put out the caveat, not to say that teams don't have skill in winning close games or that the idea of clutchness doesn't exist, but there's certainly a lot of, at least some luck that goes into winning close games. And you can almost see it on a nightly basis in college basketball, where somebody just makes a crazy shot at the end of a game, or there's a bizarre officiating call at the end of a game, or we've seen a couple instances here in the last week where a team makes like a shot at the buzzer, and you really can't tell on replay whether they got the shot off in time, and the refs, kind of flip a coin and figure out, if that shot is good or not. So that's the idea behind the luck concept. If you see a team in my ratings that is ranked higher than conventional wisdom, chances are they're going to be low in the luck stat. They'll be viewed as unlucky, because my system's trying to look at things from a predictive standpoint, whereas, like the AP poll is looking backwards almost. It's basically looking at what you've accomplished. But if you look at teams that, have lost close games in the past, that's really not something that's going to follow them going forward. Like it's going to be much more random going forward. So that's the idea behind the luck stat.
Ken Pomeroy of KenPom.com joining us right here on 97.5, the EKSL Sports Zone. Following Utah State, and we're going to talk more about them coming up here in a second, but so much of what they do is based on, they're not a particularly great half-court offense, but they get out, they force steals, and I can always tell how the game went based on their fast break points because they score so well in transition. Is there a way to really look and dive into fast break opportunities, or do you just kind of look at steals and average possession length, and that's kind of telling you a little bit more of who they are?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly infer that from those two stats. You can obviously dig deeper and look at just fast break opportunities directly. It's not something I have on my site at the moment, but you can do that. Certainly you look at what Utah State has done in terms of forcing steals, and obviously, Mason Falls-Lev is the steals god of the country pretty much.
Yeah.
You look at that, you look at their possession length, and you sort of paint that picture. One interesting thing about Utah State I got to shoehorn in here is that through their 6 conference games, they have an offensive rating of 132, which means they're averaging 1.32 points per possession, which that leads the country, by the way, in terms of just in conference play. We're not saying Utah State has the best offense in the country, but it's very, very good. And talk about a team that has a lot of green on their page. I mean, they lead the conference right now, 2-point percentage, 3-point percentage, offensive rebounding percentage. They've just been devastating so far offensively in conference play. And, for the whole season, they've had a very good offense. So very, very exciting things happening there in Logan.
So they're ranked, by the way, they come in ranked. BYU on your KenPom rankings are number 13. Utah State's 22. So, Utah State's having not a lot of separation there. When you look,
probably closer than people would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that I think is kind of interesting, because Utah State, they force so many steals, so they got their hand in the cookie jar a lot with deflections, on the ball turnovers, things like that they're forcing. But they also get called for a lot of fouls because of that. And, they're the only real red that you have on Utah State is their free throw attempt for field goal attempt based on the opponent. So they're sending teams to the line a lot, but they're also getting a lot of steals and getting fast break opportunities because of that. So do those kind of wash out a bit?
Yeah, I mean, this gets back to the idea that, very few teams do everything well. And part of the reason for that is that there are trade-offs. Obviously, as you point out, a defense that tends to wants to force a lot of turnovers tends to commit fouls. That's a great example there, Scotty. And no question, those things cancel out to some extent. But it gets back to the idea that different styles and different philosophies can be successful, and coaches across the country. How have they been influenced coming up through through the ranks all have kind of different reads on what they want to value. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly obviously a case where Jerry Calhoun thinks that, it's worth the trade-off, forcing all the steals and obviously steals and possessions. I mean, that's the main benefit. The trigger fast break points, which is a nice benefit. And even if you commit a few extra fouls, it's going to be worth the trade-off.
So, Ken, as I'm looking over the numbers and just trying to get a big picture idea of the Ken Pomeroy numbers, it feels like it's saying to me that the Big Ten right now is the lead dog in conference. Outside of that, you've got the Big Ten and then maybe Big 12, and then you start to go ACC, SEC. But is that what the numbers are showing, that the Big Ten is the powerhouse conference right now?
Actually, if you look at my ratings, you average all the teams in each conference. The SEC is number one right now. So it goes SEC, Big Ten, Big 12. And Big Ten and Big 12 basically tied in my ratings, going back and forth day by day, depending on various random things that, are difficult to explain. And then after that, there's a pretty significant drop-off to the ACC. And that's not to say that that's how the tournament bids are going to line up. The ACC is actually probably going to end up, really punching above its weight in terms of getting bids, because they do have a number of teams kind of down in that, 9 to 12 seed line range. But, the other three conferences I mentioned, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, they're a little better at the top. And perhaps most importantly, well, not most importantly, but for the calculation, most importantly, they don't have a bottom really. Like the bottom teams are pretty good. So, you look at the Big East and they have, 4 or 5 teams outside top 100, the same, or, the ACC has 4 or 5 teams outside of the top 100. The Big East has 2 or 3. That's what drags down the ratings of those leagues to some extent, but also the fact that they just don't have a lot of teams in the top 20.
The Mountain West is not going to be certainly a 5-bid league like we've seen over the last few years, where they've been able to get a lot of teams in the tournament. They may be a 2, at best maybe a 3, but probably in that 2 range. But yet, if you look at their ratings, the Mountain West last year finished with a 8.06 rating. Right now they're 8.05. So they're not that far off of where they were last year, but they just don't have those key wins that are really helping their numbers. What's your overall impression of that conference?
Yeah, it's been pretty strong. I mean, you have to, look at, it's really like the issue of the bottom of the league is stronger than it has been. I mean, really, with the exception of, say, Air Force and San Jose State. But, you got teams like New Mexico that have improved this year, Grand Canyon coming into the league and being solid. Wyoming has improved. Fresno State is not the doormat that they were last year. So, those kind of stories, they're not going to gain a lot of national attention, but that's part of the reason why the league is better. Unfortunately, you do have the cases like Boise State, who people, might have thought would be a tournament team, and they're obviously dealing with a pretty bad losing streak at the moment. Nevada's been struggling, and UNLV under Josh Pastner has been a bit disappointing. But, yeah, overall, the league's been pretty healthy in its kind of swan song in the current iteration. And, it's still, still a really solid league. It's just, when this league has produced a lot of bids, it's usually having 3 or 4 teams like right on that cut line, and they just end up on the right side of it. And this year, they might end up on the wrong side of it.
Do you like the new Pac-12 that they're forming in terms of a basketball standpoint and what that could look like next year?
I mean, I like it. I'm really interested to see, how it performs. You kind of look at how some of those teams have performed this year, and it hasn't been quite as strong, although, Fresno State, as I mentioned, maybe a bit of a surprise. But, you look at like Oregon State and Washington State, and they've been disappointing. So, it's going to be interesting to see what that league looks like. To me, it's not something that I would consider a power league. Obviously, the name of the league would maybe lead you that way, but they'll be better than the Mountain West. They'll clearly, I think, be the 6th best league in the country, but they'll still be, I think, quite a bit away from like the Big East or the ACC, which are the 2 leagues that they probably could target for for overtaking from a basketball sense, but I think they'll still be, a step away from those leagues.
Ken, I know that you've already been generous with your time, and I don't want to get sidetracked too far, but because you are a numbers guy, Scotty and I have been talking about this big point shaving scandal. 20 men have been charged in this scandal, 39 college basketball players a part of it, 17 NCAA Division I teams, 29 games that have been fixed. We're talking about up to 20 years of prison time for people. In your understanding of how a game plays out, how obvious is it when there might be a point shaving event going on in a game?
I think it's not obvious at all. I mean, that's part of the problem, and it's like part of the effect of something like this happening is that it's not obvious. Like sometimes players just play poorly. Like unless you're a star player, like you're going to have good games and bad games, and some of those bad games are going to look really bad. And it's not because you're fixing games; it's just because basketball is hard at the Division I level. So yeah, that's really like the shame of all of this is that as a fan, I mean, not that this wasn't happening before, but it'll certainly be on people's minds more. You watch a game and you see somebody make a dumb play, and it's like, were they fixing? Are they on the take? Or are they getting paid by somebody to screw this game up? So that's the real tragedy of all this is that it does call into question the sanctity of various performances, and in the vast majority of cases, anybody having a poor game or making a dumb mistake is just completely innocent. But this shows that there are hopefully rare cases. Hopefully they're just rare, where obviously people can be on the take. And I got a lot of thoughts on this. I don't know exactly where to go with it, but I'm not sure how we get out of this. Like, I think that there's a notion that, these people got caught and they're going to get jail time. That's going to deter people from doing this in the future. But I'm not totally sure that it will. I mean, a lot of these people are in desperate situations where they have no money. They're not getting NIL, and they see a big payday, and they'll probably risk it, assuming that maybe they can avoid getting caught. So I'm not. It's a sad day for college basketball in some sense, but I'm not sure that it's going to stop here.
Ken, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you again a little closer to tournament time, and it should be a fun one, man. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, brother.
All right, thanks, guys.
Huge fan of the website, kenpom.com. I have been a loyal subscriber of Ken for years and years and years. I'm telling you, especially when you're filling out your bracket, this is an absolute must. kenpom.com, again, kenpom.com, here on The Zone.